The ship landed on Velar 7 as the twin suns began to set. Commander Ji-Wan Park stood at the window and watched the orange light fall across the dead world below. Nothing lived here anymore. Nothing had lived here for 500,000 years. But something had been left behind. Ji-Wan was 42 years old. He had spent 20 years exploring dead worlds and forgotten places. He had seen things that would make other men lose sleep. But he had never seen anything like the ruins on Velar 7. The buildings were made of crystal that still glowed after 500,000 years. The streets were wide enough for giants. And at the center of the ancient city stood a temple that no one in the entire galaxy had ever been able to enter. His team gathered in the cargo bay. Dr. Yuna Beak checked her scanning equipment one last time. She was the best xenorchaeologist in the United Earth Exploration Course. She was also the most stubborn person Ji-Wan had ever met. When she wanted to know something, she did not stop until she found the answer. Tai Wuxian loaded fresh power cells into his repair kit. He was the engineer, a quiet man who spoke more to machines than to people. But when something broke, Tai Wu could fix it with nothing but spare parts and determination. Hannah Lim stood by the door, already wearing her helmet. She was young, only 26, but she had the sharpest ears in the fleet. As communications specialist, she could pick up signals that others missed completely. There was one more person in the cargo bay. Ambassador Taval of the Marani species stood in the corner with his arms folded. The Marani were tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. They had been traveling the stars for 10,000 years. They looked at humans the way humans might look at children playing with toys. Taval was here to observe, he said, to make sure the humans did not damage anything important. Ji-Wan did not like having an observer. But the Galactic Confederation had rules. Velar 7 was a protected site. Any expedition needed a Confederation witness. They walked through the dead city as the suns disappeared below the horizon. Emergency lights on their suits lit the way. The crystal buildings around them caught the light and threw it back in 1,000 colors. It was beautiful and sad at the same time. The temple rose before him like a mountain made of glass. Its doors were sealed with a lock that no one understood. The Marani had tried to open it for 3,000 years. The Kelphin had tried explosives. Nothing worked. Yuna ran her scanner across the door. Same as the old reports, she said. The lock responds to something, but we do not know what. Ji-Wan stepped closer. He did not know why. Something pulled at him, like a voice calling from far away. He raised his hand and touched the door. Light exploded from the crystal. Blue fire raced across the surface of the temple. The ground shook. Hana grabbed Yuan's arm to pull him back, but then the shaking stopped. The doors began to open. Ambassador Toval made a sound that Ji-Wan had never heard from a Marani before. It sounded like fear. That is not possible, Toval said. That lock has been sealed for 500,000 years. How did you open it? Ji-Wan had no answer. He did not understand it himself. They entered the temple together. The inside was one vast room. The walls were covered with writing that none of them could read. And in the center, on a pedestal made of black stone, sat a silver disc. Yuna approached it slowly. Her scanner hummed as it worked. "This is old," she whispered. "Very old. Older than anything we have ever found." Ji-Wan looked at the disc. It was covered with lines and symbols. Most of them meant nothing to him. But one symbol made his heart stop. It was in the center of the disc, larger than the others. A circle containing 3 mountain peaks, surrounded by stars. He knew that symbol. He had known it his entire life. It hung above the door of his grandmother's house. It was carved into the stone of his family's ancestral shrine. It was the Park family crest, passed down through his bloodline for more than 2,000 years. "That is impossible," he said. Yuna looked at him. What is impossible? Do you know this symbol? Jiwon could not speak. He could only point at the crest on his shoulder, the one every member of his family wore. It was the same. Exactly the same dot. The room went silent. Even Ambassador Toval had nothing to say. A symbol that existed on Earth for 2,000 years was carved into an artifact that was 500,000 years old. It made no sense. It broke everything they knew about history. Hana was the first to speak. Commander, I am getting signals. Ships are entering orbit. A lot of ships. Toval's communicator began to beep. He answered it and listened. His face changed. The fear was gone. Now there was something else. It looked like greed. The Confederation has been watching your mission, Toval said. They saw the temple open. They saw what is inside. By the authority of the Galactic Council, I am ordering you to surrender that artifact for study. Jiwon looked at the silver disc. He thought of his grandmother. He thought of his family. He thought of 2,000 years of history that suddenly meant something he did not understand. No, he said. Toval's eyes went wide. You cannot refuse. This is Confederation space. You have no authority here. Jiwon picked up the artifact. It was warm in his hands. It felt like it belonged there. This has my family's mark on it, he said. That makes it mine. And I am taking it home. He walked past the ambassador and out of the temple. His team followed. Behind them, Toval was already calling for reinforcements. The war for humanity's past had just begun. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of silence from the Galactic Confederation. 3 weeks of waiting for something bad to happen. Jiwon knew it was coming. The only question was when. He spent most of the trip in his cabin, looking at the silver disc. Yuna had scanned it 100 times. She said it contained information, but they needed better equipment to read it. The only thing clear was the symbol in the center. 3 mountains surrounded by stars. The Park family crest. When the ship finally entered Earth's orbit, Jiwon felt something in his chest loosen. Home. Whatever happened next. At least he was home, but he did not go to the Exploration Corps' headquarters. He did not go to the government buildings where important people were waiting to ask him questions. Instead, he took a small shuttle and flew to a village in the mountains of Korea. He went to see his grandmother, Eunji. Park was 87 years old. Her hair was white and her back was bent, but her eyes were still sharp. She lived alone in the old family house, the same house where Parks had lived for centuries. When Jiwon walked through the door, she was sitting by the fire, waiting for him. I saw the news, she said. The whole world is talking about what you found. Jiwon sat down across from her. He took the silver disc from his bag and placed it on the table between them. His grandmother looked at it for a long time. Her face showed no surprise. She looked like someone who had been waiting for this moment her entire life. You know what this is, Jiwon said. It was not a question. Eunji nodded slowly. I know what our family has always known. What we were told never to speak about. What we were told to wait for. She pointed at the crest. This mark was not made by human hands. It was given to us. Jiwon felt cold. Given to us by who? His grandmother stood up. It took her a long time. She walked to an old wooden cabinet and opened it. Inside was a box that Jiwon had never seen before. She brought it back to the table and opened it. Inside was a scroll, yellow with age. 3,000 years ago, Eunji said, a stranger came to our village. He fell from the sky in a ball of fire. Our ancestors found him and cared for him. He was hurt and could not return to where he came from. So he stayed. He married the daughter of the village chief. He had children. And before he died, he gave us this mark and made us promise to keep it safe. Jiwon stared at the scroll. The writing was old, but he could read some of it. It told the same story his grandmother had just told him. "A visitor from the heavens," he whispered. "That is what our ancestors called him." They did not have words for what he really was. NG touched the silver disc gently. "But I think you know now." Ji-wan did know. The artifact. The temple that opened only for him. The crest that was older than human civilization. It all pointed to one impossible truth. His family was connected to the architects, the ancient race that had built wonders across the galaxy and then vanished without a trace. The next morning, everything changed. Yuna called him from the research station in orbit. Her voice was shaking. "Ji-wan, you need to come here. Now, we finally managed to read the disk. It has a genetic lock. Only someone with specific DNA can access the full information. I tested it against your genetic profile, and it opened. Ji-wan, this artifact was made for your bloodline. It has been waiting for you for 500,000 years. It went to the station. What he found there made him sit down and stay silent for a very long time. The disk contained a star map. It showed the location of something hidden in the void belt, a region of space so dangerous that no ship had ever returned from it. And it contained a message. The message said that only someone carrying the unbroken bloodline of the architects could reach what was hidden there. But there was no time to think about what this meant. Hannah came running into the lab with fear on her face. "The Confederation is moving," she said. "Ambassador Toval has convinced the Council that the artifact is too dangerous for humans to keep. They are sending a fleet. They want to take it by force." Ji-wan felt anger rise in his chest. For 10,000 years, the Marani and the other species had looked down on humanity. They called humans primitive. They said humans were too young and too foolish to be trusted with advanced technology. And now, when it turned out that humans might have the oldest connection to the architects of any species in the galaxy, they wanted to steal it. "Call Admiral Seung-ho," Ji-wan said. "Tell him what is happening." An hour later, he was in a meeting with the most powerful people on Earth. Admiral Seung-ho Choi was a large man with a calm face and hard eyes. He had commanded Earth's defense fleet for 15 years. He had kept humanity safe in a galaxy that did not want them. Sujin No was there too. She was Earth's lead diplomat to the Confederation. She was small and quiet, but Ji-wan had seen her argue with Marani ambassadors until they gave up from exhaustion. "The Confederation fleet will arrive in 3 days," Seung-ho said. 50 warships. More than we can fight. "Then we need to buy time," Sujin said. "I will file protests. I will demand hearings. Every day I can delay them is another day for us to figure out what that artifact really means." Ji-wan looked at the star map floating above the table. The void belt, whatever was hidden there, the architects had wanted only their descendants to find it. They had chosen his family to carry this burden. They had been waiting 500,000 years. "I know what we need to do," he said. "I need to go to the void belt. I need to find what the architects left behind. Before the Confederation gets here. Before anyone can stop us." The room went quiet. Everyone knew what he was asking. The void belt had killed every expedition that ever entered it. Knowing there was almost certain death, but Yoonji's words echoed in his mind. The Park family crest was not just a symbol. It was a promise, a duty, and Ji-wan was the only one who could fulfill it. Seung-ho looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I will give you the fastest ship we have," the Admiral said, "and I will hold the line here for as long as I can." Ji-wan stood up. The weight of 500,000 years pressed down on his shoulders. But he did not bend. "Then let us begin." Before Ji-wan left for the void belt, something happened that changed everything. They were on the research station, preparing the ship for launch. Yuna was running final tests on the silver disk. Taiwu was checking the engines. Hannah was mapping the safest route through dangerous space. Everyone was busy. Everyone was scared. No one talked about the fact that they might not come back. Jiwan held the disc in his hands. He had done this many times before. But this time, something was different. The disc grew warm, then hot. Light began to pour from the symbols carved into its surface. The three mountains glowed like they were on fire. Jiwan! Yuna shouted. What are you doing? I am not doing anything, he said. But that was not true. Something inside him was reaching out to the disc. Something in his blood. Something in his DNA that had been sleeping for 3,000 years. The light filled the room. Then it formed a shape. A figure made of blue light stood before them. It was tall, with long limbs and a face that was almost human, but not quite. Its eyes glowed like stars. Hana backed away. Taiwu dropped his tools. Even Yuna, who had spent her life studying ancient things, looked afraid. The figure spoke. Its voice was soft, but it filled the whole room. I am Velen. I was the last of the architects. If you are seeing this message, then you carry our blood. You are our child, and you need to know the truth. Jiwan could not move, could not speak. He could only listen. Velen told them everything. 500,000 years ago, the architects ruled the galaxy. They were wise. They were powerful. They created wonders that younger species still could not understand. But they were not alone. There was something else in the darkness between stars. Something old and hungry. They called it the Hollow. The Hollow was not alive in the way that other things were alive. It was a force of pure destruction. It ate light. It ate matter. It ate time itself. The architects fought against it for 1,000 years. They built weapons. They built shields. Nothing worked. The Hollow kept coming. In the end, the architects knew they could not win. But they could make sure their children survived. They scattered their people across the galaxy. They changed their bodies so they could live on different worlds. They hid them so the Hollow would not find them. Some of those children became the Mirani. Some became the Kelthon. Some became a dozen other species that now filled the stars. And some, hidden on a small blue world at the edge of the galaxy, became human. We are all the same, Jiwan whispered. Humans, Mirani, all of us. We are all architects. Velen's hologram nodded. You are our legacy. All of you. But the bloodline was not kept equally. On most worlds, it mixed and changed over time. Only on Earth did one family keep the pure line. Your family. The hologram raised its hand. A new image appeared. It showed a structure built around a dying star. It was massive, bigger than planets, bigger than anything Jiwan had ever seen. This is the last light, Velen said. We built it to destroy the Hollow. It channels the energy of a dying star into a single pulse. One shot, enough to end the Hollow forever. But we never got to use it. The Hollow found us first. We had to run. We had to hide. Velen's eyes looked directly at Jiwan. We left the last light in the void belt. We sealed it so only the pure bloodline could activate it. We hoped that someday, one of our children would be strong enough to finish what we started. The hologram flickered. Velen's voice grew weaker. The Hollow has been sleeping, but it is waking up. We detected its movements before we fell. It is coming back, and only you can stop it. The light faded. Velen was gone. The silver disk was cold and dark, again. No one spoke for a long time. Then Hannah's communicator beeped. Her face went white as she read the message. Deep space sensors just picked up something, she said. On the edge of the galaxy. Something big. Something that is eating stars. The Hollow. It was already here. Yuna sat down slowly. The Confederation fleet is coming to take the artifact. The Hollow is coming to destroy everything. And the only weapon that can stop it is in the most dangerous place in the galaxy. She looked at Jiwon. What do we do? Jiwon thought about his grandmother. He thought about the promise his ancestors had made 3,000 years ago. He thought about all the people on Earth who did not know that their world was about to face the greatest threat in history. We do what we came here to do, he said. We go to the Void Belt, we find the last light, and we save everyone. Taiwu stood up. His face was pale but determined. I already checked the ship. It is ready. Hannah nodded. I mapped 3 possible routes. One of them might work. Yuna picked up her scanner. Someone needs to document this. If we fail, at least the truth will survive. Jiwon looked at his team. These people were not soldiers. They were scientists and engineers. They had families. They had lives they could go back to. But they were choosing to follow him into almost certain death. You do not have to come, he said. Taiwu shook his head. We have come this far. We are not stopping now. Hannah smiled, though her eyes were scared. Besides, someone needs to keep you out of trouble. Yuna put her hand on Jiwon's shoulder. The architects chose your family for a reason. Maybe they chose us too. Jiwon felt something warm in his chest. Pride, gratitude, love. This was what it meant to be human. Not the blood in your veins or the DNA in your cells, but the choice to stand together when everything seemed hopeless. Then let us go, he said. The galaxy is waiting. They walked to the ship together. Behind them, Earth hung in the darkness like a blue jewel. Ahead of them was the Void Belt and whatever waited there. The final journey had begun. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. Ambassador Toval told the Confederation Council what Valen's message had revealed. He thought it would make the other species angry. He thought they would never accept that humans, the youngest and weakest species in the Confederation, were the purest descendants of the architects. He was right. The Marani leaders called it a lie. They said the artifact was fake. They said humans had created it to trick the galaxy. The Kelthan war chiefs laughed and said they would never bow to soft, short-lived creatures like humans. Even species that had been friendly to Earth turned cold and suspicious. Only a few believed the truth. A handful of scientists, some philosophers, a few leaders who were wise enough to see past their pride. But they were not enough. The Confederation fractured into arguments and accusations. Meanwhile, the Hollow kept coming. Every day, more reports arrived. Stars going dark at the edge of the galaxy. Entire systems disappearing. The ancient enemy was awake, and it was hungry. Admiral Seung-ho Choi did not wait for the Confederation to agree on anything. He gathered every ship Earth had. He called in favors from the few alien captains who still trusted humans. Together, they built a fleet. Not a large fleet, not a powerful fleet, but it was all they had. We will escort you to the edge of the Void Belt, Seung-ho told Jiwon before he left. After that, you are on your own. We will hold the line against anything that tries to follow you. Jiwon shook the Admiral's hand. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. Just find that weapon and come back alive. Seung-ho's eyes were hard but kind. That is an order. The journey to the Void Belt took 2 weeks. 2 weeks of jumping from star to star, avoiding Confederation patrols that wanted to stop them. 2 weeks of watching the darkness grow closer. Jiwon did not sleep much. He spent his nights looking at the star map from the silver disk, memorizing every detail. The route through the Void Belt was complicated. One wrong turn, and they would be lost forever. Taiwo worked constantly on the ship's engines. The Void Belt was full of strange energy that could break machines. He added extra shields. It rewired the power systems. He did everything he could think of to keep them alive, Hana listened to the void. That was her job now. She sat at her station for hours, searching for any signal that might help them. Mostly, she found nothing. But sometimes, in the static between stars, she heard whispers. "They are architect distress calls," she told Ji-won one night. 500,000 years old. They are still bouncing around out there, still asking for help. Ji-won felt the weight of those ancient voices pressing down on him. All those people. All that fear. And he was the only one who could answer them. Yuna documented everything. She recorded every piece of data, every discovery, every moment of their journey. She said she was doing it for science. But Ji-won knew the truth. She was doing it because she wanted something to survive if they did not. On the 15th day, they reached the edge of the void belt. It was the strangest thing Ji-won had ever seen. Space itself looked broken. Stars bent and twisted in ways that hurt to look at. Black clouds that swallowed light drifted like living things. The ship's sensors screamed warnings about radiation, gravity wells, and things that had no name. Admiral Sunho's voice came through the communicator. "This is as far as we go. The fleet will hold position here. Whatever you find in there, whatever happens, know that we are proud of you. We will come back," Ji-won said. "You had better. I expect a full report." The communication cut off. The coalition fleet fell behind, and a small ship carrying 4 humans flew into the darkness. The next 3 days were the worst of Ji-won's life. The void belt did not want them there. Space twisted around them like a living creature trying to crush them. Taiwu barely slept, running from one emergency to another. An engine failed. Then the shields. Then the navigation system. Each time, somehow, he fixed it. His hands shook from exhaustion, but he never stopped. Hana guided them through the chaos. She listened to the patterns in the static, finding paths that the sensors could not see. "Left here. Right there. Wait for the gravity wave to pass." Her voice was calm, even when everything else was screaming. Yuna helped where she could. She was not an engineer or a pilot, but she was smart and she learned fast. She held tools for Taiwu. She read data for Hana. She kept everyone fed and reminded them to breathe. And Ji-won? Ji-won flew the ship. He made the decisions that could not wait. He kept everyone moving forward, even when forward seemed impossible. On the second night, Hana found him sitting alone in the cargo bay. His hands were shaking. "You should sleep," she said. "I cannot. Every time I close my eyes, I see everyone counting on me. Earth, the fleet, my grandmother, everyone." He looked at her. "What if I fail? What if I am not strong enough?" Hana sat down next to him. "When I was young, I wanted to be a singer. I was terrible at it. I could not hit a single note. But I loved music so much that I learned to listen instead. And now I can hear things no one else can." She smiled. "Maybe strength is not about being perfect. Maybe it is about finding what you can do and doing it. But I did not choose this. The architects chose my family. I never asked to be special. None of us asked to be here. Taiwu could be home with his sister. Yuna could be safe in her university. I could be listening to music somewhere peaceful. But we are here. We chose to follow you." Hana put her hand on his arm. "Not because you are the chosen one. Because you are Ji-won. Because we trust you." Ji-won felt tears in his eyes. He did not try to hide them. "Thank you," he said. "Now get some sleep. We need our commander." On the third day, they saw it. The last light dot, it was built around a dying star, just as Velen had shown them. It was bigger than anything humans had ever made. Bigger than anything humans had ever imagined. Towers and spires of crystal and metal stretched across space like the skeleton of a god. And at its heart, the star burned red, waiting to die, waiting to give its last light to save the galaxy. "We made it," Yuna whispered. Taiwu laughed, half from relief and half from disbelief. I cannot believe we actually made it. But Hannah's face was pale. She was staring at her screen with fear in her eyes. Jiwon, she said. Something else made it too. Something is coming. Something big. The sensors showed it. A wave of darkness pouring through the void belt behind them, eating everything in its path, moving faster than anything should be able to move. The hollow had found them. The hollow came like a wave of nothing. Where it passed, stars went dark. Where it touched, matter simply stopped existing. It was not alive. It was not dead. It was the end of all things, and it was coming for them. Outside the void belt, the coalition fleet saw it too. Admiral Sunho Choi watched his sensors with cold eyes. The readings made no sense. The hollow was bigger than worlds. It should not exist. But it did. All ships, he said calmly, formed defensive line. We hold here. His officers looked at him with fear. Sir, we cannot fight that. It will destroy us. I know. Sunho stood straight. But every minute we hold is another minute for them to reach the weapon. So we hold, until the end. The fleet moved into position. Marani ships that had refused to help before now joined the line. Kelvin war cruisers dropped out of hyperspace, their captains shouting challenges at the darkness. The threat was too big for pride. The threat was too big for anything except standing together. They opened fire on the hollow. Beams of light and waves of energy hit the darkness. For a moment, nothing happened. Then small pieces of the hollow broke away and died. It could be hurt. It could be slowed. Not stopped, but slowed. Admiral Sunho smiled. Keep firing. Buy them time. On the last light, Jiwon ran through corridors that had been empty for 500,000 years. Yuna ran beside him. Behind them, Taiwo and Hannah worked to keep the ship docked and protected. The activation chamber should be at the center, Yuna said, reading her scanner. Near the star itself. They found it. A vast room filled with crystal columns that reached up into darkness. In the center was a platform, and on the platform was a single panel made of silver light. It looked exactly like the disc Jiwon had found on VELAR-7. He stepped onto the platform. The silver panel glowed in response to his presence. Symbols appeared in the air around him. The same mountains and stars. The same family crest. It recognizes you, Yuna said. She was crying, though she did not seem to notice. After all this time, it has been waiting for you. Jiwon placed his hand on the panel. Information flooded into his mind. He saw how the weapon worked. He saw what it would do. He saw the dying star, ready to release all of its energy in one final moment. He saw the hollow being swept away by light, and he saw the cost. The weapon needed a guide. Someone to direct the energy. Someone to tell it where to go. That someone would be at the center of the explosion. That someone would not survive. No, Yuna said. She had seen his face change. No, there has to be another way. There is not. Jiwon's voice was steady, though his heart was breaking. The architects built this as a last resort. They knew what it would cost. They accepted it. So do I, Jiwon, please. He turned to her. His eyes were full of peace. Go back to the ship. Tell Hannah and Taiwu to get everyone away. Tell my grandmother that I kept the promise. What promise? To protect those who cannot protect themselves. He smiled. That is what the Park family has always done. For 3,000 years. I will not be the one who stops. Yuna hugged him. She held him for a long moment. Then she turned and ran back toward the ship. She did not look back. She could not. Jiwon faced the silver panel alone. Outside, the battle was ending. The coalition fleet was broken. Ships drifted dead in space. Others were retreating. The hollow had slowed, but it had not stopped. Admiral Sung-ho's flagship was on fire, but he refused to abandon his post. "All ships, fall back," he ordered. "Protect Earth. That is your final mission." "Sir, what about you?" "I will hold as long as I can." He looked at the hollow coming toward him. "Someone has to be last." Then light exploded from the void belt. The dying star released everything it had. 500,000 years of energy, focused into a single beam of pure white fire. It hit the hollow like the fist of God. The darkness screamed, a sound that every living being in the galaxy heard in their minds. It screamed, and it burned, and it died. The light spread across space. Where it touched the darkness, there was only brightness. The hollow broke apart. It shattered. It ended, and then it was gone. In the silence that followed, Admiral Sung-ho wept. His officers wept. Across the galaxy, beings of every species looked up at the stars and felt something they could not explain. Relief, gratitude, hope. But on the last light, there was only stillness. Yuna, Taiwu, and Hana searched for hours. They searched through the ruins of the activation chamber. They searched through debris that floated where the dying star had been. They searched until they had no more strength to search. It was Hana who found him. He was floating in space, surrounded by a shell of fading light. His body was changed. His skin glowed faintly. His eyes, when they opened, were the color of stars. "Ji-won," Hana's voice cracked. "You are alive." "How are you alive?" He did not answer right away. He looked at his hands like he was seeing them for the first time. "The architects built more than a weapon," he said slowly. "They built a key. And when I used it, I became something else. Something more." The genetic legacy that had slept in his blood for 3,000 years had finally awakened completely. He was no longer entirely human. He was what the architects had always meant their children to become. A bridge between what was and what could be. They brought him home. Earth celebrated. The Confederation celebrated. Species that had hated each other for thousands of years embraced. The threat was over. The hollow would never return. And humanity, the youngest and weakest species in the galaxy, had saved them all. Ambassador Toval came to see Ji-won in the hospital. The Marani stood at the foot of his bed, looking uncomfortable. "I owe you an apology," Toval said. "I thought humans were beneath us. I thought you were children playing with things you did not understand. I was wrong." Ji-won looked at him. There was no anger in his eyes, only understanding. "We are all children of the architects," he said. "All of us. Marani and human, Kelthan and 100 other species. We are one family, separated by time and distance. Maybe it is time to remember that." Toval nodded slowly. "What will you do now?" "You could rule. With what you have become, no one would stop you." Ji-won smiled and shook his head. "I do not want to rule. I want to explore. I want to learn. I want to find all the other children the architects left behind and bring them home." He looked out the window at the stars. "The same thing humans have always done. Explore, protect, survive, and make sure no one ever faces the darkness alone." Months later, a new ship left Earth. It was crewed by humans and Marani and Kelthan and a dozen other species. Its mission was simple: to find what the architects had left behind and to build a future worthy of their legacy. Ji-won stood at the bridge, looking out at the endless stars. Beside him stood Yuna, Taiwu, and Hana, his family. His crew, his friends, ready? Yuna asked. Ji-won touched the Park family crest on his shoulder. 3 mountains surrounded by stars. A symbol of duty. A symbol of hope. A symbol of what humanity had always been and could become. "Ready," he said. The ship jumped into hyperspace. The journey was just beginning.